Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm reading One Piece for the first time ever, and I want to talk about Orange Town. This was another short one that I definitely breezed through, but I feel like it does a lot for the story in terms of defining what One Piece as a whole is trying to tell. And right now we're starting to see different kinds of pirates and that they're not all like Luffy. And then we're also seeing what Luffy is all about and his own morals and what he's willing to stand for and not. I love the slow character development that we're starting to see from both Luffy, ZORO. I love the addition of Nami and that we're getting a good little trio set up. I feel like this is the first time that Luffy as a young adult and his idea of what being a pirate is really challenged. In Romance Dawn, and as he has set sail in his story, it's really been about dreams and freedom and following what you want to do, because that's what Luffy is showing us. But we have now seen with Alvida and now Buggy that that isn't the case for every pirate out there. Orange Town shows us through Buggy that piracy in the eyes of others is kind of ugly, because Buggy isn't chasing freedom or treasure really. He is wanting power and he is ruling a town through fear and essentially basking in that power that he gets from others' fear. We get both Luffy and Buggy who call themselves pirate, but they could not be any more different in how they go about that. Buggy himself was a really interesting character. I feel like he's really flashy, kind of giving a little bit insecure. He doesn't really seem like he has a goal, and it feels like his crew only follows him for the show and spectacle of it all rather than because they respect him. And I feel like, to me, Shanks set this really high bar of what a crew should look like, and so far nobody has really been anything like that. I really loved the addition of Nami because I feel like she is so different from Luffy in regards to what she thinks about piracy. Very obvious at this point that she does not trust Luffy and she's really only teaming up with him because it's convenient right now. And it makes sense because in her perspective, Buggy is the rule, not the exception of what pirates are supposed to be like. I do also love the idea of having a protagonist that is not necessarily someone that we consider to be a perfect character. She is someone who steals and lies, and that is just how she is. And obviously in a world full of pirates, it makes sense that sometimes this is how our main crew is going to have to go about things. And then there was Choo Choo, the dog, and I loved him. I thought that he was a really great way to show this idea of inherited will. The idea that even though someone passes, you still want to uphold what they stood for, and for him it meant protecting this pet food shop and just seeing how resilient he was to protect his owner's place of work and place of like a place that he loved was just so emotional. And to learn that it was actually inspired by a real life dog made me so emotional. I loved Choo Choo, and I love that Luffy stepped in and helped him because that's just who Luffy is, and he has morals that he is willing to always uphold. And then the Luffy versus Buggy fight, I feel like actually does a lot for the story in regards to showing us that Luffy's not always going to be able to fight somebody just through strength alone, and that there has to be a strategy sometimes, because obviously Buggy's entire power is that he can detach everything, so brute force isn't gonna get it done. So I feel like this does a really good job of quietly setting the tone of brute strength is not everything that there is to being a pirate, and you have to be strategic and smart and adapt when you need to. I feel like Oda is really setting the tone here in regards to there's always going to be this silly element to things, even when the overall theme is darker and a little bit harder to grasp. And Orange Town was at times a little bit ridiculously silly, but I feel like he's doing a really good job of balancing out the seriousness and the silliness of it all, and I love it. So by the end of the arc, I feel like Orange Town does a really good job of showing us that Luffy's dreams exist in a world that pushes back, and in a world where piracy isn't inherently good or bad, it's about how you choose to go about it. And that difference between good and bad comes down to how you treat people and how you go about achieving your goals. That was another short one, but I think it's doing a really good job of setting the foundational tone of One Piece, and that makes sense because that's usually what the beginning of a story always is introducing us to our main cast, introducing us to our overall themes, which it really does seem like this inherited will, abuse of power, fighting against the grain essentially is the main theme of One Piece that I think we're going to continue seeing. So I really love this. I love the addition of Nami, and I will see you in Syrup Village. Bye now!